Welcome. You are about to encounter a very, very brief history of the American Civil War for the lesser informed. Because dummies is a cruel word.
Before the first firearm was ever fired, it was evident that the North had more advantages over the South, with approximately 12 million more citizens and much more industry.
The North produced most of the weapons and equipment used in the war, and they could transport it more quickly due to advancements in transportation like the railroad. They also had control over the newest communications like the telegraph.
While the North seemed to have more advantages over the South, they certainly weren't without the benefit. They boasted a number of well-trained officers. Since most of the war was fought in the South, the Southern soldiers had much more knowledge of the land than the Northern soldiers and were able to fight from strategic positions.
The United States of America was led by Kentucky native President Abraham Lincoln, while the Confederate States of America, more commonly known as the South, was led by their president, Jefferson Davis, also a native of Kentucky.
Now for the war. The Union and Confederate armies both had a cause for fighting. The North's main purpose was to restore the Union since 11 states had seceded from it. The South was fighting to preserve slavery since the Union and Republican forces were attempting to destroy it.
Now both the North and South carried out very long campaigns to fight for their cause, and both boasted many fearless leaders. Beginning with the North, they were led throughout the war by several men, including George McClellan, John Fremont, and General Ulysses S. Grant. The South had many well-trained military officers, many of whom had graduated from a military school, including Stonewall Jackson, Braxton Bragg, and General Robert E. Lee.
The war ended when General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Grant on April 9, 1865 at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. The South had suffered several detrimental blows and realized they had no hope in winning the war or becoming a sovereign country.
Due to the approximate 600,000 deaths caused by the Civil War, the massive amount of money spilled out on war efforts, and the emancipation of slaves pursuant to the 13th Amendment, it was agreed upon to end the war and begin the lengthy and challenging task of reconstructing America.
At the close of the war, there was question as to how the Union would control the readmission of the southern states that had seceded, consisting of numerous plans.
Among these were Lincoln's 10% plan and the Wade-Davis bill, which were not carried out, but also President Andrew Johnson's 10% plus plan that granted presidential pardons to nearly all Confederates and required them to abolish slavery and new state constitutions was carried out during his presidency.
This angered many radical Republicans in Congress, who formed their own plan of reconstructing America that included impeaching President Johnson. Following the ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, the South wanted to restore the standpoints of blacks to how it had been prior to the Civil War.
So they created the Black Codes, and it was a series of laws in the South regarding the affairs of African Americans. It labeled what they could and could not do, like restricting them from legally marrying and voting and forcing many of them to become sharecroppers. While some states had harsher laws than others did regarding the blacks, any and all were resented by the recently emancipated black freedmen.
Thanks for watching. We hope you no longer fall in the category of the lesser informed.